right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Steelers Today. I'm your host, Eddie Provident. With me today is Tom Reed, all the way from Columbus, Ohio, because everything at the Steelers facility was virtual this afternoon. Inclement weather, they just went ahead and did everything over Zoom. So Tom did not have to make the trek from Ohio to Pittsburgh today, but we are coming to you virtually for the latest episode of Steelers Today. And Tom, you know, the Steelers made Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth available. And, you know, as frustrating as this season has been, to me, those two guys are really bright spots in this season, especially as rookies, because not only are they good players, they're good football players, but they're just very mature for as young as they are. And you can hear that today in how they were talking. And just, you know, before we hopped on, you talked about Pat Freiermuth with that last play of the game, Thursday night against the Vikings, and what he had to say about that.
Yeah, I made no excuses. He was disappointed. He didn't catch the ball. He said he's made that kind of play in practice. He's made that play in his past, offered no excuses, even though, my goodness, did he get walloped. He got hit from both sides. I mean, it would have been a spectacular catch had he been able to hang on to that ball. He didn't. I don't really think you could blame him at all. It was just a great play all around from the pass that Roethlisberger threw. If he doesn't get hit on the front end, he scores. And fair play to the Vikings defender who made a potentially game-saving hit that jarred the ball loose. I am sure though that it's a hit that was certainly recognized by Steeler fans that looked a lot like the one that Mika Fitzpatrick laid earlier in the game, which was also clean. I guess that's another story at another time, but that's, to me, a play that the NFL really needs to start looking at as a possible reviewable play. When you can start getting the unnecessary roughness for quarterbacks and for receivers, that would have taken about 15 seconds to look at again and realize that Fitzpatrick's play was just as clean as the one that broke up the play in the end zone. I'm off my soapbox now.
And it's one of those things, man. We saw last night how freak the NFL can be with injuries. And prayers up to was it Donald Parham from San Diego, or from the Los Angeles Chargers. Third time's a charm. But we see how freak it is. So I mean, I understand why, when you actually have a hit like that, why the gut reaction is to throw the flag. But you're right, there has to be some kind of without getting too far down a rabbit hole, there has to be some kind of review, I think, there. But the point that I wanted to make with Pat Freiermuth is that, normally you don't hear rookies talk about things in that vein, where they're upset that they didn't make the play, even though it wasn't their fault that they didn't make the play, and that's the refreshing thing to hear from a guy like Pat Freiermuth. And, I was looking at some stats of his last night, getting ready for today, and he's got 7 touchdown catches already. He's 3 away from tying Rob Gronkowski's rookie record for touchdowns by a tight end. And, he's a second-round guy who really, was kind of behind Najee Harris as far as the hype train went. He really wasn't the guy that everybody was excited about. I know you got to see him some in training camp. I got to see him a lot in training camp. And I think people that watched him play in college and in training camp and in preseason, I think the people that really keyed in on him knew what the Steelers were getting and knew that there were some high expectations from this guy.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I go back to the preseason game against the Lions, I think it was, where he caught at least 1, maybe 2 touchdown passes.
The 2 touchdown passes.
And you could just tell, those were special plays where he had to go up and get the ball in an NFL game. I know it's a preseason game, but that was, for me, like the moment where this kid's going to be pretty good, and he has been. I mean, there's room to grow. He can be a better blocker. But as you said, from the mental standpoint, from the buy-in standpoint, and certainly from the physical standpoint, he's only going to get better. There's a lot of problems on this team right now. But Kevin Colbert, I think, hit home runs on both of his first 2 picks, because I'm sure we're going to get into Najee Harris here in a second, and he's been terrific as well.
And that's a perfect segue, because Najee Harris, I think everybody knows.
I tried to help you out on that end.
That was a perfect segue, Tom. And that's the thing with Najee is, we all knew, everybody saw him at Alabama. You don't hide from the limelight at Alabama. Everybody knew what the Steelers were getting in Najee Harris on the football field. I think the bonus with Najee Harris has been what we've seen from him off of the football field. The type of character he has, the type of young man that he is, the type of leader that he's already becoming in that locker room. And he talked about it today. He was asked about overreacting and taking bad penalties, and how some players on the team have to be a little bit more aware of that. And he even said, we need more of this. We need more of people kind of not overreacting on this football team, and taking things a little bit more serious. To hear a rookie talk like that and not be afraid to talk like that, that had to be pretty impressive to you.
Yeah, I mean, everything about the kid has been impressive, from his effort to his, he told a pretty good story along with that. As writers and reporters, we always appreciate when there's an anecdote to go along with a statement. And his story was, it happened to him in high school. He was in a high school game where he felt he kept getting hit late by a guy. He let it get to him. He ended up taking swings, was thrown out of the game, and was suspended for the next game. And a lot of times kids are like, well, that's not my fault. But he understood at that point that I can't affect our team like that. And he's tried to carry that over with him. I thought the other thing that was really interesting, he was paid a compliment by one of the Titans players. And I have talked to Merle Hodge about him as well. He never gives up on plays. He doesn't have bad body language. When things aren't going well, he keeps trying to grind and find ways. I mean, look at the game against the Vikings. He had nothing going on early in that game, absolutely nothing. And in a game where you're thinking, if they're going to get back in this, they're going to have to throw constantly. He ended up with like over 90 yards rushing. He sticks with it. He doesn't get down. He's not a finger pointer. So yeah, it's a very good point, very good observation on your point about a young guy who has, and of course we all know his story off the field. I mean, he's dealt with a lot worse things than not getting enough touches in a game.
Yeah, and I think that game never even gets close if it's not for him. I think it was that 3rd and short where they had him, the Vikings had him tackled behind the line of scrimmage, and he fought and scraped for a 3-yard play. And I think it was even Troy Aikman said it was one of the best 3-yard runs he's ever seen in the NFL. And it was just a testament to how, what you said, he doesn't give up on plays, and he just keeps fighting and keeps grinding. And when we come back, we'll take a quick break, but we could talk about how the Steelers kind of have to embody that, keep grinding and keep fighting and not giving up, because their backs are against the wall right now with this season if they're going to make anything happen. So this is Steelers Today. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to Steelers Today. I'm your host, Eddie Provident. With me from Columbus is my main man, Tom Reed. Tom is our features writer. For those of you who don't know who Tom is, I don't know how you wouldn't by this point in time if you've been following DK Pittsburgh Sports. He's an amazing writer, is constantly pumping out great content for us. Host of the 6687 podcast with Dave Molinari. He's not just a Steelers guy. He does hockey too. Jack of all trades. Tom, we talked a little bit about Najee and Pat Freiermuth before on the last segment. What do you see? How did the Steelers bounce back? Because obviously everybody in that organization was unhappy with that performance on Thursday night, last Thursday night. Everybody was frustrated with it. There really was nothing, it was cool that they came back and made it close, but there wasn't too much there to hang your hat on. So as a team, how do you come back from that? How do you put that in the past and then get ready for a big game? Because now the next 4 games are all must win for you. Like there's no wiggle room here now. There's no room for a hiccup. You have to play your best football these next 4 games if you're going to make the playoffs. How do you handle that?
Well, you just look at the standings. I mean, you're still in it at 6-6-1. Anyone who's ever watched the movie Amadeus, the star of the movie was Antonio Salieri, who declared himself the patron saint of mediocrity. He could be the commissioner of the AFC right now. The AFC, other than for like 2 teams, is all mediocre teams. So yes, there's still time. Yeah. They can still pull this out of the fire. The Browns. If you wanted to play in the NFL, you could probably go up to Cleveland and play this week. They have so few players. I think they're calling themselves the COVID-19 right now because there are 19 regulars out of the lineup. Now again, we're recording this at Friday afternoon. They have till 4:00 to get to find out how many players. But They're still in it. I mean, the Chargers have a pretty easy way in, but look at the Ravens. The Ravens have a really hard schedule. So you just focus on the next game. You try to get through that. The Colts, another team they're playing the Patriots this week. You just try to narrow your focus and know if you can win 2 or 3 of these games, it might be enough to get you in. And if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what would.
Yeah, and that's like, Dale and I have been talking about this all week, that we on Tuesday we even titled the show Groundhog's Day in the AFC, because you just really every week, no matter what happens, you're still in it. You're like there's no team, maybe aside from the Chiefs now, that have really made themselves known as the team in the AFC. It's just to your point, the only 3 teams that are really out of it are the Jets, the Texans, and the Jaguars. Everybody else in the AFC has a chance to make the playoffs. So you're right, man. Don't give up. Don't go, don't go the pity route. Don't the woe is me. Or we're already, as much as I'm not going to sit here and bash players by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the things that frustrated me earlier this week with Devin Bush was his talk of next season. And there's always next year. They still have everything in front of them this year. And that's, I think that's what they need to understand. And I think what people need to understand is that they come out and put a hurting on the Titans. There's now 7-6-1, and people are looking at this team a lot differently than they were Thursday night. And that, like you said, if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what does. Yeah,
you just keep going. It reminds me of sometimes you watch those, and I'm not a NASCAR fan, but on the last lap, there's a wreck at the front, and the car, the 7th car in the list, navigates right through all the carnage and wins the race. I mean, that's kind of their situation right now. It's you can't do anything about the record that they have. They are, as you and I have talked about before, they're a mediocre team. But there's a lot of mediocre teams in, and the AFC's still giving out 7 playoff invitations. And you could still maybe win the division. I mean, between Baltimore's injury situation and who they have to play, including the Steelers, that's still there for grabs. Now, of course, there are teams ahead of them. But one of the problems they're running into now, as we get to the end, is that they've got to jump over. They got to just not only win games but jump over teams. But there's still enough games being played among all these teams that there's still hope. But I mean, again, we say it every week, but it's got to start this week, and we'll see. Yeah. We'll see if they can do it against the Titans.
And the thing, and I know this isn't a popular opinion in Pittsburgh right now, is amongst fans, but it's something that we have to look at. It's reality. They have a lot of skill on this football team. I know that they've been playing as a mediocre team, but you've got T.J. Watt, you've got Cam Hayward on the defensive side, Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's 3 all-pro type players on your defense. And on the offense, Ben is not playing bad football. Ben has been a very, especially for a 39-year-old, he's been a very productive quarterback this season. Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth. We talked about those 2 guys. There's some talent on the offensive side of the football too. And for all of his hiccups and hangups, when Chase Claypool's on his game, we saw what he did outside of the mistakes. We saw what he did in the second half of that Minnesota game. He's a problem for defenses when he's on his game and he's not getting himself in trouble. So there's a lot of talent on this team that can carry them to a playoff spot if they put it all together. The problem is we haven't seen this team put it all together in quite a while. So that's the big question. Can they do it? I hope so, but it's going to be an interesting 4 weeks.
They have to, for me, the thing that jumps out is they have to start on time, meaning they've got to start playing better than the first half.
Yeah,
we talk about Ben.
There it is.
Ben
right
has
there,
been terrific in fourth quarters in games and leading comebacks. He's not been very good early in the games, and that's not just all on him. That's on a offensive line that has struggled with guys going in and out, that is young. If you could, this is great live podcasting right here. I'm actually going to look up something. I didn't know we were going to go there, but let me see if I still have the stat. It's actually worth it for all this wait here, all this dead air. Here it is. Okay. Got to turn it around. This is the scoring differential. This is Roethlisberger's completions and attempts when leading, when tied, and when trailing. This blows me away. When leading this year, 74 of 47 of 74.
Okay.
Attempts win tied, 71 attempts, 44 completions. Win trailing, 301 attempts, 206 completions. This team has been behind so much in games this year, especially, I mean, that is insane. Again, Roethlisberger's been good in those situations. You grade a little bit on a curve, and because a lot of times they've been bound so far in games, the teams are kind of playing prevent defense against them. But still, he's been terrific. He's been terrific late in the games. They've got to find a way to get leads.
That's it. And that's, I mean, it's a tale of two halves for this team in pretty much every game this season. And it's going to change. I mean, they have to, like you said, they have to start on time this week if they're going to have any chance to beat this Tennessee Titans team. So it'll be interesting to see. That about wraps up our show today. The next time you get a Steelers Today episode will be Sunday from Heinz Field when Dale and DK are coming to you, hopefully after a Steelers win, but we'll see.
Eddie, I got to tell you, the coloring of the walls, your shirt and your hat and your beard was spectacular. It's one of the best COVID looks I have seen in the bathroom in my life. So
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I put a lot of effort into it.
All right, my man.
But for Tom Reed and DK Pittsburgh Sports, I'm Eddie Provident. We'll catch you on Sunday.